Next speaker, may have seen her on TV, I'm sure you have, and read about her in the papers many times for one of her record-breaking deals, which she's had many, as you know. She's a master marketer who not only reaches out to the global client, but I think I'm right, just returned from China for the third time on a sales trip. It's my pleasure indeed to introduce Nikki Field of Sotheby's International Realty.
Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you, Rick, for putting this together and inviting me to be on the panel. I'm from the trenches. I'm selling just like most of you are. I have a personal perspective on the international global market. It is only my perspective through my experience, but perhaps I can share some of what I've learned, and it may be useful if you haven't already learned these skills. A little bit about my stats. Through my good fortune and the association I have with Sotheby's International Realty, I have spent from 1998 to 2008 looking at a considerable amount of my income directly responsible to international buyers. Close to 18% on an annual basis. It was a wonderful piece of my selling portfolio, an extraordinary opportunity to learn about the international buyer, their interest, and their goals in Manhattan real estate. It was a 10-year process of learning outside of my normal skill sets and quite beneficial when the game changer happened in 2009. Right after our economic meltdown here in New York, there was an extraordinary interest from the international consumer on what's happening in Manhattan and what their opportunities might be here. We were ready, and we were certainly excited about participating in this as we saw the volume of our local sales depleting. We at Sotheby's saw this great interest and opportunity for our international sales to grow. And we took advantage of it just as you all are looking to or have, or you wouldn't be here today. What I saw in 2009 personally was from my 18% of international income, responsible income, I grew to 29% in 1 year. That was something that my business plan took into consideration. In 2010, I went from that 29% to 34% of my income. My gross income was directly related to those visa-carrying buyers. Again, we were looking for and capturing as many international buyers as we could. Today, as of my closed sales, year to date, and my manager will be happy to hear this, she's in the room, Ellie Johnson, 56% of my 2011 income is directly responsible to international buyers. You can believe that my goal next year in 2012 will be hopefully realized of 70% international buyers. We're always looking for the new opportunity. For us, it is this source of income. We have this extraordinary beneficial opportunity by living and working in Manhattan, and this is the ultimate luxury brand. We know that from hearing about Turkey and certainly hearing about other areas of the world. I know Kathy's going to be telling us a great deal more about the Asian buyer. I'm going to focus on the Chinese buyer today because that's what I have experience on, and that's what I've been most fortunate in growing my business with. I've just returned, as Phyllis said, from my third selling tour in China in the last year. I have traveled elsewhere in the past couple of years. I've gone to South America, Europe, India even, but through introductions and good fortune, I found that China was, in fact, the place that I needed to be. I have no visuals today, so this would be a great time for any of you that'd like to check your Blackberries, go right ahead. You can listen to me, but you certainly can look at something else. I'm not Chinese. I have no advantage in the Chinese market except for personal relationships that have been made. And you and I and everybody outside of this room that's in real estate knows it's all about your personal relations. I have been successful in focusing in the Chinese market, some significant Chinese relations that have provided the right introductions to the right resources that have provided income. Let me tell you a little bit about what I've learned in the culture. And you do need to know any culture that you're working in, and you can't just learn it by the seat of your pants. You really have to study it. And I've spent a couple years reading, learning, talking to, and even taking some classes on Chinese culture and customs. There's one fabulous custom they have. They have a group of interesting mystical animals, and one of the most interesting one to a professional is the Pichu. For those of you that don't know what the Pichu is, it's a mystical, half animal, half godlike creature that many Chinese businesses have out at their front door, a pair of them exposed. This Pichu is known to eat, collect gold and silver. It comes in their mouths, and then it translates back to their owners. So Pichus are very, very, very popular in China and have continued to be throughout the centuries. Another extraordinary opportunity right now is one of the Feng Shui current instruments of belief is the year of 2011. It is called the money bag year. And the Chinese have, with their good fortune in mainland China, found many reasons through the comfort of Feng Shui to not only make their money, but to spend their money. They're making a lot of it, they're spending a lot of it, and now, just recently, they're talking about preserving it. You all in this room know the stats of Chinese. It's mind-blowing. There are over 500,000 millionaires that have been created in the last 3 years in mainland China alone. They're anticipating that number will double in 2 years' time. These people are making money, they are spending money. They can only buy so many Hermes bags and Gucci shoes, and now they're looking beyond it. And they are spending it in real estate, and thank goodness for all of us. Look at your BlackBerries, because this is the time when I look at my notes. Of these cash-rich Chinese, they have been advised that buying real estate is not only the right place to put a percentage of their money, and according to Chinese reports just recently published, that close to 30% of all newly minted millionaires in mainland China are buying real estate. They're buying it, and they're buying it as a major part of their portfolio. They are not any longer buying it as much in China. Due to the current economic conditions in China, there is genuine, real, vibrant fear of inflation. I noticed this specifically in this most recent visit last week, much different from just 6 months ago when all of my clients were looking in real estate investment growth. Every one of our discussions was about how to grow their investment. How much could I return on their investment? Where could they return on their investment? They are, in the last 6 months, focused on wealth preservation. What do we have that is the most important, viable, and historical tool of wealth preservation? Real estate. We are truly in the right business at the right time, and I believe that this is the right client to be talking with. Manhattan, on top of their interest in buying real estate, happens to be the ultimate Chinese luxury brand. For those of you that are Chinese, know Chinese, married to Chinese, have a neighbor Chinese, or go to any store on Madison Avenue, you know that a good amount of the clientele in those shops are Chinese now. They are buying luxury brands. They are not in Target. They are in Prada. Luxury brand to them is a direct relation to value. Manhattan is a luxury brand. Manhattan is value. I didn't need to sell Manhattan. They know it. They're sending their children to school here, and they're extraordinarily interested in what Manhattan has to offer. Now the reason I'm here. everything I've just told you, you already know, but what have I used? What are my tools? How have I been able to capture this market? And I'm going to share a few of my secrets with you, and I hope they'll stay in this room, because if everybody had them, I certainly would be depleting my income and disappointing my manager. It's a very easy formula, and it's called Find Your Buyer. Again, not being Chinese, not speaking Chinese, not living in China, not even having a relative that lives in China, it was very, very difficult for me to find a way to target the Chinese buyer. My formula was wealth management. In China, wealthy individuals are almost entirely directed by their banker or wealth manager. Thus, we're in Citibank Corp right now. Through some opportune introductions to private wealth managers in banking here in New York, other introductions were provided in China, and that's how I made the connections that ultimately realized sales. The Chinese have an extraordinary loyalty to their bankers. Many Chinese have inherited their father's banker. They stay with the banker, and bankers not only give them advice on on what to do with their cash and their income, but on almost all economic options and choices in their lives. Bankers have the Chinese loyalty and faith. If I'm introduced by their banker as a credible conduit to real estate investment, I had an extraordinary advantage. They trusted me, they give me credible comfort level and loyalty to work with them. And that's a very tough thing to do with a customer that has a very foreign background to yours. They come to New York, or they send their representatives to New York, and they really have some hesitation on whether or not they're going to be advised truthfully, correctly, and advantageously. And with the advantage of a banker's introduction and the heritage of that relationship, you can take on some of that achieved credibility, and it's been extraordinarily valuable to me. The banker is a trusted family counselor. I become by introduction another trusted family counselor. And with I think it was it Philip, or excuse me, was it you that touched on schools? Yes. I think it was. Another extraordinary opportunity for finding Chinese buyers are through the school communities and school consultants. Many of the Chinese are first familiar with New York because they've sent their children to East Coast schools. And in doing so, they've come to visit. They have an extraordinary amount of their time and interest invested in their children's schooling, and they want to spend more time with them, so they may in fact buy real estate here, or they do in fact buy real estate here once their children have graduated and tend to get jobs in this area. So another great source, if you have any or you can find any, or school-related consultants, they do and have tapped into the Chinese mainland client and customer. They are great resources, and if you deliver credible advice and are helpful to their client, there is more coming. There's something that you'll need to learn very quickly about the Chinese. It is not in a direct basis for building your business. The Chinese tend to, and again, this is my personal experience, they tend to be extremely confidential about their investment choices. They tend not to tell most of their family, their friends, their co-workers that they've bought something. This is a very personal and private investment. New Wealth in particular is very careful about exposing how they're spending their money. So don't expect that your great Chinese buyer is going to send you 5 more. I have had a lot of them in the last couple of years, and they don't. But what they do is they go back to the original introduction, and they do tell the bankers that they've had an extraordinarily successful and well-received experience with you. So just be careful about the fact that one Chinese investor does not beget you 20 more.